The moment my stepbrother, Mike, stood up at our family reunion, I knew something bad was coming. He had that look on his face, the same one he wore when he told our parents I'd scratched his car in high school, when really he'd done it himself driving drunk. 23 relatives packed into my parents' dining room, and Mike was about to put on a show. "Before we go any further with dinner, there's something we need to address as a family," Mike announced, his voice carrying that fake concern he'd perfected over the years. "Dad's money is missing, and we know who took it." Every fork stopped moving. Every conversation died. My mother's hand found mine under the table and squeezed hard. $40,000, Mike continued, pulling out a manila folder like he was some kind of prosecutor, withdrawn over the past 6 months, bit by bit, hoping nobody would notice. My Aunt Teresa gasped. Gerald's retirement money? His retirement, his savings, money meant for his care. Mike's eyes swept the room before landing on me. Della's been stealing for months. The accusation hit me like ice water. My cousin Vera actually scooted her chair away from me. Uncle Raymond's mouth fell open. These people had known me since I was born, and in one sentence, Mike had turned me into a criminal in their eyes. That's insane. I shot to my feet, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I manage Dad's finances because he asked me to. Every single withdrawal has been for his medical expenses, his prescriptions, the home health aid Mom needed. "Convenient that you're the only one with access to prove that," Mike said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Even more convenient that all the receipts seem to have vanished. I spent all day yesterday going through Dad's office. Nothing." My father sat at the head of the table, confusion clouding his eyes. The dementia had been getting worse lately, and stressful situations made it harder for him to track conversations. He kept looking between Mike and me like he was trying to piece together what was happening. "Della wouldn't do that," my mother said, but her voice was shaking. "She's been nothing but helpful since Gerald's diagnosis." "Nancy, I know she's your daughter," Mike said, using that patronizing tone that made my skin crawl. "But look at the facts. She's a single mother working a nurse's salary. Her car was broken for 3 months, then suddenly fixed. Finn needed braces last month. Every major expense in her life lines up with a withdrawal from Dad's account." The room was spinning. I could feel everyone staring at me, their faith crumbling with each word Mike spoke. My stepbrother had planned this ambush perfectly, choosing the one time of year when the entire family would be gathered to witness my humiliation. That's when I heard a small voice from the doorway. "Uncle Mike, should I show everyone the video of who really stole the money?" My 8-year-old son, Finn, stood there, holding his phone with both hands. His dark hair was sticking up in the back the way it always did, and he was wearing his favorite dinosaur shirt. But his expression was completely serious. Mike's confident smile vanished instantly. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint. "What video?" Aunt Teresa asked, looking between Finn and Mike. "The one I took yesterday," Finn said, walking into the room with more confidence than I'd ever seen from my usually quiet boy. Uncle Mike was in Grandpa's office on the phone with someone. He was talking about offshore accounts and destroying receipts. "That's ridiculous," Mike sputtered, but sweat was already beading on his forehead. "Kids make things up all the time. He probably saw something on TV and got confused." Finn shook his head. "I'm not confused. You said Aunt Della would be the perfect person to blame because she had access to Grandpa's accounts. You even said the password out loud when you were transferring money. It's Grandpa's birthday backwards." The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once. Uncle Raymond demanded to see the video. Vera was asking Mike if it was true. Mom had grabbed Dad's hand and was holding it tight. And Mike? Mike looked like he was about to be sick. "Play it," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "Finn, play the video." My son looked up at me, then at Mike, who had gone from accusatory to desperate in less than 30 seconds. The hunter had become the hunted, and my 8-year-old boy was holding all the evidence. The Morrison family reunion was supposed to be a celebration. Every July, we gathered at my parents' lake house in Minnesota, a tradition that went back 15 years. The house sat on 3 acres overlooking Lake Minnetonka, with its wraparound porch and the old tire swing that still hung from the massive oak tree out front. This year, I'd been dreading it for weeks. I pulled into the gravel driveway with Finn buckled in beside me, his Nintendo Switch forgotten as he stared at all the cars. "That's a lot of people, Mom," he said, counting on his fingers. "Are they all our family?" "Most of them, baby. Remember, be polite to everyone, even if they ask you the same questions 50 times about school and what you want to be when you grow up." "Astronaut," he said automatically, then grinned. "Or maybe a detective. Detectives are cool." Mike's BMW sat in the spot closest to the house, the one everyone knew Dad liked to use for his own car. Such a small thing, but so perfectly Mike. He'd always acted like the heir apparent, even though Dad had 2 other children from his second marriage to my mother, me and my younger brother Tommy, who was stationed overseas and couldn't make it this year. The moment we walked through the front door, the familiar chaos of family wrapped around us. The house smelled like Mom's famous pot roast and Aunt Teresa's sugar cookies. Cousins chased each other through the hallways, while the adults clustered in various rooms, their voices mixing into that comfortable hum of family catching up. "Della, there you are." Mom appeared from the kitchen, flour dusting her apron, her gray hair pinned back in the same style she'd worn my entire life. She hugged me tight, then whispered, "Mike's been here since yesterday." "He's been acting strange, honey. Spent hours in your father's office going through papers." "He's probably just trying to help with Dad's finances," I said, though my stomach tightened. Mike never helped unless there was something in it for him. "Maybe," Mom said, but her eyes showed doubt. "Your father's been having more bad days lately. Yesterday, he couldn't remember where he put his reading glasses, and they were on his head the whole time. The doctor says we need to prepare for things to get worse." Dad's diagnosis of early-stage dementia had come 6 months ago, though we'd been noticing signs for almost a year. Forgotten appointments, repeated stories, confusion about dates and times. As a nurse, I'd recognized the symptoms before anyone else wanted to admit them. That's why Dad had asked me to take over his power of attorney, to handle his medical decisions and finances while he still had the capacity to make that choice. Mike had been furious when he found out. He'd driven down from Chicago specifically to contest it, arguing that as the eldest child and the only one with a business degree, he should be in charge. But Dad had been clear-minded that day. "Della lives 20 minutes away," he'd said firmly. "She's medical. She knows what I need. End of discussion." I found Dad in his favorite recliner in the living room, surrounded by relatives but somehow looking alone. His once sharp blue eyes had that foggy quality they got more often now. "Hi, Dad," I said, kissing his forehead. "Della, how's my favorite nurse?" He smiled, and for a moment he was completely present. "Where's my grandson?" Finn had already wandered off, probably to the den where the younger cousins usually set up video games. He was a quiet kid, preferring to observe rather than jump into the chaos. Some people thought he was shy, but really, he was just thoughtful, always watching, always processing. "Mom, can I explore the house?" Finn had reappeared, his phone in his hand. "I want to make a video tour for my YouTube channel I'm starting." "Sure, baby. Just stay out of people's bedrooms and don't bother Uncle Mike if he's working." He nodded and disappeared again. I should mention that Finn's YouTube channel was just videos he made for fun and saved on his phone. He had maybe 3 subscribers, all family members, but he treated it like serious business. The afternoon wore on with the usual reunion activities. Vera cornered me about her divorce proceedings. Uncle Raymond told the same fishing stories he'd been telling since 1987. Aunt Teresa held court in the kitchen, gossiping about neighbors none of us knew. It all felt normal, safe even, until I noticed Mike emerge from Dad's office carrying a trash bag. "Spring cleaning?" I asked. He didn't even look at me. "Just helping Dad get organized. You know how cluttered he keeps things." Something about his tone made my skin prickle, but before I could respond, Mom called everyone to dinner. 23 family members began migrating to the dining room, ready for the traditional reunion feast. Dinner started the way it always did at Morrison family reunions. Mom had outdone herself with the spread. Pot roast so tender it fell apart at the touch of a fork, her famous garlic mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds, and enough fresh rolls to feed an army. The dining room table had been extended with both leaves, and we'd pulled in the card table from the garage to fit everyone. I was helping Finn cut his meat when Mike stood up and tapped his fork against his wine glass. The crystalline sound cut through the comfortable chatter like a knife. "Before we continue with this lovely meal," he began, and something in his tone made everyone stop mid-bite. "There's a family matter that needs immediate attention." Uncle Raymond set down his beer. "What's going on, Mike?" Mike reached under his chair and pulled out a manila folder thick with papers. My stomach dropped. This was planned. This was rehearsed. "As some of you know, I've been helping Dad organize his finances," Mike said, his voice taking on that corporate presentation tone he used when he wanted to sound authoritative. "What I discovered is deeply disturbing. Over the past 6 months, approximately $40,000 has been systematically withdrawn from Dad's accounts." The silence that followed was deafening. Forks clattered onto plates. Aunt Teresa's hand flew to her mouth. "What do you mean, withdrawn?" Uncle Raymond demanded. "I mean, stolen," Mike said flatly. "Small amounts at first, 500 here, 1,000 there, then larger sums, 3,000, 5,000, all of it disappearing into cash withdrawals that can't be traced." My mother's face had gone white. "There must be some mistake. Those could be medical expenses or—" "That's what I thought at first," Mike interrupted, flipping open his folder. "But look at the pattern. Every withdrawal happens just days before certain someone's major expenses come up." His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt the room shift. Della got her car repaired in March. 3 days earlier, $3,000 disappeared from Dad's account. Finn needed braces in May. 2 days before that appointment, $2,500 vanished. Her rent went up in January. Guess what happened to Dad's money right before that? "You're accusing me?" My voice came out stronger than I felt. "I have power of attorney. Every dollar I've withdrawn has been for Dad's care." "Then where are the receipts?" Mike pulled out a stack of bank statements, each one covered in yellow highlighter. "I spent all day yesterday going through Dad's office. There's not a single receipt for these withdrawals. Not one." "That's impossible," I said, standing up so fast my napkin fell to the floor. "I file everything in Dad's desk, medical receipts, pharmacy records, the home health aid invoices." "I found nothing," Mike said coldly. "Either you're lying or you're the world's worst record keeper. Either way, you've been treating Dad's retirement fund like your personal ATM." Vera shifted in her seat. "Mike showed me some of this earlier. The timing is pretty damning, Della." "You knew about this?" I turned to my cousin, betrayal stinging worse than Mike's accusations. "And you didn't think to ask me first?" "What's there to ask?" Mike spread the bank statements across the table like evidence in a courtroom. "The numbers don't lie. $40,000 gone, and the only person with access is sitting right there." Dad was looking around the table, confusion and distress written across his face. "I don't understand. What money? Did I spend it?" "No, Dad," Mike said, his voice suddenly gentle, sympathetic. "Someone took it from you. Someone you trusted." "Stop it," Mom said, her voice shaking. "Stop talking about Della like she's some kind of criminal. She drives Gerald to every doctor's appointment. She manages his medications. She spent her own money on grab bars for our bathroom when he started having balance problems." "Her own money?" Mike laughed, but there was no humor in it. "How do we know that wasn't Dad's money, too? She's had complete control for 6 months. Who knows how much she's really taken?" The room erupted. Aunt Teresa was demanding to know if we should call the police. Uncle Raymond was asking Dad if he remembered authorizing any withdrawals. Vera was on her phone, probably texting the relatives who hadn't made it to dinner yet. And through it all, Mike stood there like a prosecutor who just delivered a closing argument, satisfied and self-righteous. "I've already contacted a lawyer," he announced over the chaos, "and tomorrow we're going to the police to file charges." "You what?" The room spun around me. "Mike, this is insane. I'm your sister." "Stepsister," he corrected, and that single word carried 20 years of resentment. "And apparently, a thief." That's when I noticed Finn standing in the doorway, his small frame tense, his phone clutched in both hands like a shield. Finn stood in that doorway for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds. His dinosaur shirt was untucked on one side, and his hair stuck up in that way that usually made me smile. But his expression was completely serious, more adult than any 8-year-old's face should be. "Mom," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos of accusations and arguments. "Should I say something?" Mike turned to look at my son and actually rolled his eyes. "This is adult business, kid. Go back to your video games." "I wasn't playing video games," Finn said, taking a step into the dining room. "I was making videos for my YouTube channel. I was filming a house tour yesterday." "Nobody cares about your little videos right now," Mike said dismissively, already turning back to his bank statements. "The adults are handling something important." Finn looked at me, then at his grandfather, who was still struggling to understand what was happening. Then my quiet, thoughtful boy did something I'd never seen him do before. He walked right up to the table and stood directly across from Mike. "Uncle Mike," he said clearly, "remember yesterday when you told me kids should mind their own business?" Mike barely glanced at him. "What's your point?" "I was minding my business. I was in the hallway outside Grandpa's office filming the antique clock for my video. The door was open and you were on speakerphone." The change in Mike's expression was instant. His smugness evaporated like water on hot pavement. "You were eavesdropping?" "I was filming," Finn repeated patiently. "You were talking really loud. You said something about offshore accounts and how the receipts were destroyed." "That's ridiculous," Mike said, but his voice had gone up an octave. "You're making things up." Vera leaned forward. "What exactly did you hear, Finn?" My son looked at me again, and I nodded. Whatever he knew, whatever he'd captured, we needed to hear it. "Uncle Mike was talking to someone named Brad," Finn said. "He said the transfers to the Cayman account were untraceable. Then he said something about how Aunt Della would be the perfect person to blame because she had power of attorney." The dining room went completely silent. Even the grandfather clock in the hallway seemed to stop ticking. "You're lying," Mike said, but sweat was now visible on his forehead. "This is just a kid trying to protect his mother. You can't believe anything he says." "I'm not lying," Finn said simply. "I have it on video." Aunt Teresa gasped. "You recorded it?" Finn nodded and held up his phone. "The whole thing. Uncle Mike was on Grandpa's computer too. He said the password out loud when he was logging in. It's Grandpa's birthday spelled backwards. He was moving money while he talked." "This is insane," Mike said, his hands starting to shake. "You can't possibly have that on video. The angle would be wrong, the audio wouldn't pick up clearly. You're making this up to save your mother." "Want to see it?" Finn asked, and there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Confidence, complete, unshakable confidence. Mike lunged forward like he was going to grab the phone, but Uncle Raymond stood up and blocked him. "Oh, no, you don't. If the kid has evidence, we're all going to see it." "This is a family matter," Mike said desperately. "We don't need to make a scene. Maybe I was on a business call that the boy misunderstood. You know how kids misinterpret things." "Then you won't mind us watching the video," Mom said, and her voice had steel in it. "Finn, honey, can you show us what you recorded?" Finn looked at the phone in his hands, then up at Mike. "Should I start from the beginning or skip to the part where you said you lost everything in bad investments and needed Grandpa's money to keep your creditors away?" Mike's face went from pale to green. "That's private business information. You had no right to record that." "But I did record it," Finn said, "and you had no right to steal from Grandpa and blame my mom." Dad, who had been silent and confused through most of this, suddenly spoke with more clarity than he'd had in weeks. "You stole from me, Michael? And you were going to let them arrest Della?" "Dad, it's not what it sounds like," Mike started, but Dad held up his hand. "Show me the video," Dad said to Finn. "I want to see what my son did." Finn walked around the table to where his grandfather sat. He unlocked his phone and pulled up his videos. "It's about 3 minutes long," he said. "I kept recording even after Uncle Mike left because I wanted to get a shot of Grandpa's ship in a bottle collection." "Play it," I said, finding my voice at last. "Play all of it." Finn pressed play, and Mike's voice filled the dining room through the tiny phone speaker, crystal clear despite being recorded from the hallway. "Brad, I need you to listen carefully," Mike's recorded voice said. "I'm transferring another $10,000 today. The Cayman account should be at $40,000 after this." Everyone leaned in closer. The video showed the hallway and part of the office doorway, but we could see Mike's shadow moving as he worked at Dad's computer. "Mike, this is getting dangerous." Brad's voice came through the speaker phone in the recording. "What if someone notices?" "No one will notice until the reunion, and by then, I'll have convinced everyone it was Della. She's the only one with access besides me figuring out Dad's password. It's perfect. Aunt Teresa's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. The video continued. "The receipts are destroyed," Mike's voice said with satisfaction. "I spent an hour shredding everything from Dad's medical file. Without documentation, it looks like Della took cash for personal use. She's a single mom struggling financially. Everyone will believe it." "You're framing your stepsister?" Brad sounded uncomfortable even through the phone. "She's not my real sister," Mike said coldly. "Never was. Just some kid my dad got when he married Nancy. And honestly, this kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Once Della's out of the picture, I'll petition to get Dad declared incompetent, take over the power of attorney, and access the rest." The old man sitting on $500,000 in various accounts. Dad made a sound like he'd been punched in the stomach. Mom wrapped her arms around him. The video shifted slightly as young Finn had apparently moved to get a better angle of the grandfather clock he'd been filming. Now we could partially see into the office. Mike was clearly visible at the computer, typing and clicking. "How much did you lose again?" Brad asked. $300,000, Mike said bitterly. That cryptocurrency investment was supposed to be a sure thing. Then the medical tech startup tanked. Jennifer doesn't know yet. If she finds out I leveraged the house and emptied the kids' college funds, she'll divorce me and take everything. "So you're stealing from your father with dementia?" "I'm borrowing from my inheritance," Mike snapped. "Money that should have been mine anyway if he hadn't remarried and had more kids. Besides, he doesn't even remember he has it half the time." Uncle Raymond stood up so fast his chair fell backwards. "You son of a—" "Wait," I said. "There's more." On the video, Mike was now standing, gathering papers. $40,000 should keep the creditors off my back for now. I'll figure out the rest after Della's arrested. Maybe I can convince Dad to sell the lake house. He won't remember agreeing to it." "This is sick, Mike," Brad said. "This is survival," Mike responded. "And if you say anything to anyone, remember that your name is on some of these shell companies, too. We're in this together." The video continued for another 30 seconds, showing Mike leaving the office with a trash bag, presumably full of the shredded receipts. Then Finn's young voice whispered, "That was weird. I better show Mom later." The video ended with a close-up of the ship in a bottle. The dining room erupted. "You monster," Aunt Teresa shouted at Mike. "Your own father, and you were going to send Della to prison?" "It's not admissible," Mike said desperately. "That video was taken without my consent. It's illegal recording. No court would accept it." "This isn't about court," Uncle Raymond said, pulling out his phone. "This is about family and crime. I'm calling the police." "Wait." Mike looked around wildly. "We can work this out. I'll return the money. Every penny. I just need time." "You were going to let me be arrested," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "You were going to let my son grow up with his mother in prison. You destroyed medical receipts for Dad's care to frame me." "I was desperate." Mike's carefully constructed facade finally cracked completely. "Do you know what it's like to lose everything? To have your whole life about to collapse? I worked my entire career building wealth and it's all gone. Meanwhile, you get to play nursemaid and inherit everything." "Inherit?" Dad's voice cut through Mike's rant. "Is that what this is about? Money I'll leave behind when I die?" Dad stood up, Mom steadying him. He walked over to Mike with more purpose than I'd seen in months. "I'm not dead yet, son, but you're dead to me now." Mike reached for Dad, but Dad stepped back. "Della takes care of me every single day. She bathes me when I can't remember how the shower works. She makes sure I take my medications. She holds my hand when I'm confused and scared. And you stole from me and tried to destroy her for money that was never yours to take." "Dad, please, get out of my house, Michael. Don't come back." The police arrived within 20 minutes. Mike tried to leave before they got there, but Uncle Raymond and 2 of my cousins blocked the driveway with their trucks. There was nowhere for him to run, and honestly, I think he knew it was over the moment Finn's video started playing. The officers took Mike's laptop from his car, which turned out to be the stupidest thing he could have brought to the reunion. Everything was on there: the offshore accounts, the shell companies, transaction histories, even email exchanges with Brad about the embezzlement scheme. He hadn't just stolen from Dad, he'd been siphoning money from his own company for months, which is why he was so desperate. Mike was arrested that night in front of the entire family. As they led him to the police car, he looked back at me one last time. "This is your fault," he said. "If Dad had just given me the power of attorney like he should have, none of this would have happened." Even facing arrest, he couldn't take responsibility. That was Mike, always and forever. The investigation that followed revealed the full extent of Mike's crimes. He'd stolen $43,000 from Dad, but over $200,000 from his company. His house was in foreclosure. His wife Jennifer had no idea their savings were gone, their children's college funds emptied, their entire future gambled away on bad investments and get-rich-quick schemes. Jennifer divorced him before the trial even started. She took the kids and moved in with her parents in Oregon. I felt sorry for her, and especially for my nephews, who didn't deserve to have their lives destroyed by their father's greed. Mike took a plea deal, 18 months in federal prison and full restitution. The $43,000 was recovered from his Cayman account and returned to Dad. The family reunions continued, smaller now, but somehow warmer. Without Mike's toxic presence, we actually enjoyed being together. But the real story here isn't about Mike's downfall or even about the money. It's about my 8-year-old son who saved me when a room full of adults was ready to condemn me. 3 days after the reunion, as we were driving home, I asked Finn to tell me the truth about the video. "I wasn't really making a YouTube video, was I right?" I said, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. He smiled that little smile that reminded me so much of his grandfather before the dementia. "I was looking for Grandpa's cat in the hallway. Then I heard Uncle Mike talking about offshore accounts and destroying receipts. You always tell me that if something seems wrong, I should document it. But how did you know to record it?" "Mom, he was talking about framing you while stealing from Grandpa. Even I know. That's super illegal. Plus, Uncle Mike has been mean to you my whole life. Remember when I was 5 and he made you cry at Christmas? I never forgot that." My throat tightened. "You've been protecting me since you were 5. "Someone has to," he said simply. "You protect everyone else." 6 months later, Dad's condition has progressed. Some days he doesn't remember my name, but on his good days he tells everyone how his grandson is a hero. "That boy saved my daughter," he'll say to anyone who listens. 8 years old and smarter than all of us combined. Mom moved in with us last month. It's crowded in our small apartment, but we're saving for a house now that I'm not spending every penny on emergencies. The family helps more too now that they've seen what happens when we don't stick together. Finn did eventually start a real YouTube channel, though we were careful about what content he posted. His first video was titled "How to Stand Up for Your Mom Using Animation Instead of Real Footage." It got 12,000 views in the first week. Turns out a lot of kids related to wanting to protect their parents. The $43,000 was returned to Dad's account, but the real value was in the lesson we all learned. Sometimes the smallest voice in the room carries the most truth. Never underestimate a child's ability to see right from wrong, and never ever underestimate their love for their family. Every time someone asks me about that reunion, I tell them the same thing. My 8-year-old son stood up to a room full of adults and proved my innocence with a 3-minute video. He reminded me that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear dinosaur shirts and carry secondhand phones, ready to defend the people they love. The truth always finds a way to surface. Sometimes it just needs a little help from an 8-year-old with a phone and an unshakable sense of justice. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. What would you have done in this situation? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible true stories. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the youngest among us are the wisest of all.